Hello. Oh, you're muted. Haha. Hello and welcome to the RPG Academy podcast Twitch channel. My name is Michael, and we are here tonight for a detention live with my special co-host. He's not a special co-host; he's just special. But you know what? I'm gonna stop talking now. Chris, say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody.
Excellent. So let me say hello in chat. Make sure that actually is working. It is not, so oh, there we are. Okay, I just had a little bit off. There we go. So in case anyone had checked our Twitter feed, we were supposed to have a special guest co-host joining tonight. And I don't know if there's communication issues, time zone issues, something that's happened. I have not heard back from them, so I will bump them to a future episode. So for tonight, you just get the dynamic duo of Chris and myself. But we're going to carry on as we would anyway. So thank you for those of you who are watching now. Hopefully a few more people will jump in or watch now in the future. But Chris, say hello to everyone. Let them know who you are. Give them your socials, all that kind of good stuff.
Chris, if I'm not here, I'm usually can find me on Redemption as the game master of that Star Wars AP. Almost 6 years now, I think. So I still say we're the longest running Star Wars AP. I'm still challenging somebody to prove me wrong. Hasn't happened yet.
I mean, until someone proves you wrong, I think you're right. I, of course, am Michael at the RPG Academy. Everything I do can pretty much be found there. I do have another show, Farm to Fable, which I've been doing for the last year or so. It's a Smallville TV show rewatch podcast. And we're one episode away from wrapping up season 2. It's been a ton of fun revisiting that show, the good and the bad. I do love that show, but what I have found, because I even had one of the listeners tell me I was getting too negative, is that when you watch the show 2 or 3 times and you're taking notes and you're trying to find things to talk about, I sort of invariably would slip into the things that don't make sense, the things that don't work for me, the silly aspects of the show, because there are certainly plenty of them, more so than the things that I love. Because it's easy to talk about what you love in broad terms, like, oh, that was a great scene. I really liked how that actor played it. But did you notice that when they walked in from the left, that in the 2 episodes early, we saw that there's no room. That's the kind of stuff I would invariably pull out and start to pick apart. So I try to be a little bit more conscientious of it, but it's still, there's a lot of it in there.
I think we all do that.
Yeah. New York Tater, no worries, man. I appreciate you hopping in for the minute. You enjoy your time off, because I know you don't get nearly enough of it for what you do for us. So enjoy yourself. You can always watch this later on YouTube or catch a show in the future. But I appreciate you checking in. So we'll kind of continue to expand on this, but the first thing we like to do here at Detention is we do what we call extracurricular, and that is where we talk about kind of what we've been up to lately, anything top of mind, TV shows we've been watching, new movies, books, games we're running or playing, or I don't know, maybe designing. So Chris, what's been going on with you, buddy?
Well, work has been super busy. Got bought in October, bought again in February, 2 transitions, all that neat stuff. Lots of that. Other than that, I've been playing some Tabletop Simulator with you and some other people. Been really having fun with that. I did watch 2 things. My wife and I are watching Shadow and Bone on Netflix. I like it so far. It's an interesting world. I wish they'd tell me a little bit more about the history and some of the backstory they have, but I'm hoping they'll get into that. On the flip side, I watched a movie called Jiu-Jitsu.
Okay.
Wow. I don't even know how to describe the movie. I would just encourage everybody to watch it with a beverage in hand that will help ease the pain.
Did you feel like the movie grabbed you and then sort of like flipped you over maybe onto your back and then sort of strangled you into submission?
No, more like I found myself within the first 5 minutes of the movie yelling at the screen everything that they're doing wrong.
Oh, okay. So that was the other version of that story. I just thought it would be funny if I could create like a metaphor, but I'm a failure of many things, and creating metaphors is also one of them.
No, this is one of those movies where a friend said, "You got to watch this and make it all the way through the end. You won't believe how it ends." And I watched the end, and I called him up. I'm like, I'm not sure we can talk about movies ever again. And he's like,
I didn't
gotcha.
realize how wrong you were. Now I have to reevaluate everything we've ever said to each other.
Yeah, it had nothing to do with jiu-jitsu. So being a guy who has trained in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, it was annoying that it had nothing to do with jiu-jitsu. There was an long story short, it's an alien who comes back to Earth every so often, and there are 13 jiu-jitsu guys that have to fight him to put him back into the portal to send him back, or else he'll destroy the world.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I mean, that old classic.
Yeah, and the alien, when he got to Earth, was more like Predator, but not very powerful. Yeah, it was bad. The action was bad.
Have you ever seen the movie Gymkata?
No.
So this is it's like a early 80 action martial arts movie, and there's a guy, I cannot remember his name. He looks just like John Denver. Not John Denver, but looks a lot like him. Okay. Who is a gymnast who gets recruited into a secret military like martial arts organization. So there's like all the martial arts are filtered through this guy's gymnastics ability. It's terrible, but I love it.
Yeah, sounds right on par. Yeah, it was. The action was so bad. There are times where you see the actor throw a block up and literally wait for the other actor to finish the punch. And it's like you see the actor like, come on, got it. Now I can go on to the next move. And I'm just like, why am I watching this still?
Oh, that's funny.
Next time I watch it, we're going to Mystery Science Theater it.
Nice. Sometimes that's the best way to watch movies like that.
Yeah. What have you been up to?
Little of this, little of that. Some of it, anybody who's been watching for all knows I am closing in on finishing the first draft of Action 12 Cinema. Speaking of bad movies, I'm writing a game that's all about playing through bad movie stories, but hopefully the good bad movies, not the bad movies. Mm-hmm. And Saturday's the day, good, bad, or indifferent, wherever the manuscript is at that point, I'm turning it over to my editor to fix. I guess I'll just have to pay them more if it's in really bad shape. But I'm very, very excited. I cannot wait for someone else to really deep dive and help me get it into a place that we can move forward. Again, the idea is some point this year there'll be a Kickstarter for it. I don't know if it'll be ready for that. Like, I'm gonna leave it to my editor to tell me if it's ready for that at this point. But it's a fun game. It has been fun to play. I do like bad movies, and it kind of helps facilitate those, and that's kind of the goal. And of course, it heavily uses the D12 because that's really the reason I started making the game. So that's what the big thing. I actually started to watch, speaking of bad movies, Mortal Kombat, the new 2021 edition that hit HBO Max. I fell asleep about 20 minutes in, and then just never came back to it. It just did not grab me, did not throw me over the shoulder. It just put me to sleep.
See, I've heard the opposite from other people.
A lot of people are talking about how much they love it. It just didn't do it for me for some reason.
I mean, the very first one they did in the 1900s, I can't remember when.
Yeah.
It wasn't bad. The second one wasn't good. It wasn't as bad as the Street Fighter movie they made.
Oh, I do actually rather enjoy it. It's so bad, but I actually like that Street Fighter movie.
Yeah. Again, it's one you Mystery Science Theater and.
Oh yeah, it's not a good movie at all, but it's a fun movie, at least for me. I'm a big Jean-Claude apologist. I love almost everything he's in, especially the bad movies. And then I'm still checking out The Nevers. Have you seen that yet? It's on HBO Max.
I don't have HBO Max.
I'm really digging the show. It's by Joss Whedon, who did some of the things that I love the most, including Firefly and Buffy. It has turned out he's apparently a jerk and hard to work with, and I think he eventually he's no longer with the production, whether he was actually fired or he left himself. It's one of those Hollywood versions, so I don't know for sure. But I still like the stuff he does. And the the pilot was great. It was just a fantastic pilot episode. It's essentially late 1800 Victoria era England with X-Men. And it's primarily women of the lower class that are getting these powers. And there's a lot of classism and sexism involved. The two main female leads are really, really good. There's some weird subplot stuff going on, as you would expect. It's very Buffy, very Firefly. So if you like either of those shows, it's pretty interesting. The second episode kind of took a dip. I didn't think it was as good, but the third episode was right back up there. And the mystery that they're telling is very interesting. So yeah, I'm really, really digging that. Obviously, Falcon and the Winter Soldier just ended. Invincible ends this week. We got Loki coming up. There's so much TV if you're into that nerd stuff. It's almost hard to keep up with it all.
Are we allowed to talk about Falcon and Winter Soldier, or is it too early?
I would still say no spoilers. It's it's the same. Well, I guess it's been not quite a week. So yeah, I would still say no. If you want to give like broad thoughts, or we can just say spoiler warning. We're going to talk about Falcon and the Winter Soldier for. I'll hold up a finger as long as I'm doing this. Falcon. We're talking about Falcon and the Winter Soldier. When I stop doing this, it's clear to take your earmuffs back off or whatever. So go for it.
Yeah. Believe it or not, I found the ending a little predictable.
Okay.
I kind of saw it about episode 3, like this is how it's going to end.
Gotcha.
So it wasn't quite the ending I was hoping for. I was hoping for a little bit more of a twist, but I was hoping for, I don't know. I don't even know how to explain it. Something just different.
No, like fair enough. Overall, I liked it quite a lot, but yeah. The biggest thing for me is I did not like. That was a weird accent. I did not like the way they wrapped up the John Walker storyline. Yeah. I liked at the end of episode 5. I really liked where his character was at, and I felt by the end of episode 6 they had sort of like undid that and just sort of forgave him. And I would have preferred for him to still be in the dark. I hate the world. I'm going to get back at you. And the fact that they just sort of redeemed him in that one episode, I didn't care for. But overall, I think the character was done really, really well. I think this was the writing, not the acting. I think the acting was great. Not 100% on the Sharon Carter of it all, but beginning to end, I thought the Isaiah stuff worked great. I like Sam as the Cap. I think he earned that title, so I'm happy to keep watching more.
Yeah, me too.
All right, I'm gonna stop doing that then. Whew, my arms are getting tired. I just flew in and my arms are tired. All right, so with that out of the way, we're going to jump into our first improv game. This is 10 Things, and this is an improv game where we will prompt one another to give a list of 10 items. Then we will then try to come up with 10 things that make sense for that list. The goal here is immediacy over accuracy, so coming up with a fast 10-thing list is better than an accurate 10-thing list. Chris, would you like to go first with the prompt, or would you like to go first receiving the prompt?
You can go ahead and give me a 10 list first, or list of 10 things first.
So let's see. Okay, Mortal Kombat. Can you name 10 Mortal Kombat-ish fatality moves?
Wow.
And again, they don't have to be real.
Right.
Hey, it's Dirty Habanero. Welcome.
Hey. All right. 10 Mortal Kombat fatality moves. We'll go with here's my chain. I'm going to rip your head off.
1.
Smell my feet till your head falls off.
2.
Watch the movie Jiu-Jitsu over and over and over till you just rip your own head off.
3.
Get stuck in a room with screaming toddlers that you have no way of making them stop screaming.
4.
Get frozen and then kicked in the head until your body shatters into tons of pieces.
5. You're halfway there.
Get stuck playing your least favorite board game over and over until you
6.
just jump off a cliff. We'll go with get beat up with a game board piece.
7.
I magically produce a dragon out of my hand that eats you.
Eat.
We'll go with lightning comes flying out of my eyes into your eyes and your feet explode.
9.
And last, I attack you with a giant toothbrush and tickle you to death.
10. Wow. That in fact was 10 things. Excellent, sir. All right, my turn.
All right. Recently, I got to go watch my son's track meet. And while I was there, this entertained me. So I came up with an idea, and I actually did this while I was sitting there. So I want to see how you do. 10 objects that would make really bad footwear to run track in.
Crocs.
1.
Paperbacks.
2.
Soulless shoes. So is this the tops of your
3.
feet? Flip-flops.
3. 4.
Legos.
5.
Just taped to your feet. D4s taped to your feet.
6.
Bowling balls.
7.
Board game components.
8.
Laptops.
9.
Small children.
10.
10! Yeah! That was, in fact, 10 things. All right, so we, again, thought we were going to have a guest. Didn't happen. So tonight's used books is going to be a little bit different. Chris and I are just going to talk a little bit about the games that he and I are running. So caution for redemption spoilers, because you're several months ahead of release, right? So if we get into any details, possibly. And then same thing for Shadow Spawns that I'm running. There's some things going on that if you're not watching live, you might get a little bit spoiled. But I'll start with you, Chris. So we started talking before the show. We both run similar type of games. How many dice did you roll the last time you played?
We had 2 times in the 2 hours that dice were rolled, and both times it was me as a GM.
So our last session, we played for a little over 2 hours. We had 2 dice rolls as well, both by the same character, both insight checks.
Nice. A lot of it was this particular session was very social. And one of the characters, that's what they're built around, is social skills and creating contacts in different worlds and having an underground or underworld connections. And as a GM, I would rather play out a really cool scene and let the person be charming and do what their character is built to do than make them roll dice.
Mm-hmm.
I hate doing a really cool scene and then going, cool, roll the dice. And you roll the dice and the dice give you the middle finger and you're like,
yeah,
all that work. Usually what I do, and it's the same thing I did in this last game, the main NPC that they're talking to, I give them a goal. And if they achieve that goal, or I guess a desire that the character wants, however you want to say it, and once they hit that, cool, they've charmed them, or they've deceived them into believing, or whatever angle they're going for. Once they hit that, I go, okay, cool. If they get stumble in the scene and they're not sure where to go, that's when I'll say, okay, let's roll dice and see if you end up more successful or more in the opposite direction. So I kind of like to let the dice just guide the scene when the players struggle.
Mm-hmm. And
Unfortunate.
It truly is a difficult thing, because I've said this many times before, but let's say I'm at a convention game and there's a youngish kid there, early teens, who's a little bit awkward, and they want to play the charismatic bard. Then it's not fair to me to expect this person to be a dashing,
right,
debonair, smuggler character and get away with their quick wit when they just want to roll the dice because it says their charisma is really high and they get that's the point for them. But I think both of the games that we're playing are, one, they're for entertainment. They're for an audience. They are also designed to be lore heavy, role play heavy games. So I think the types of games that we are running, I think it makes more sense to lessen the use of the dice rather than, like, quote unquote, fudge them. If someone rolls and you just ignore the roll, it's easier just not to let them roll at all. I just want to be clear for anyone who might be listening again now or in the future that this isn't how I would run a game with a different set of players. But for the game I'm running with the players I'm running with, I completely agree that the dice often just get in the way.
Mm-hmm. And I think that's a big part of both our games, because I watched some last night before my internet took a dive, and we both have really strong players that understand what their characters can and can't do. I know Kaylee, who's not playing the charismatic character, isn't going to try to jump in the scene and be the charismatic character.
Yeah.
She's going to take a step back and let Andy, who's playing the charismatic character, have that moment. So we don't have to have the dice kind of, I don't want to say dictate how the players play, but I don't have to say to that player who's not playing the charismatic character, all right, roll with your -4 charisma over there.
Right. And it can be fun that at some point in time, Kaylee's character is forced into that position where they have to then try to be the face, and then you can let the dice sort of help dictate the fiction. And I think that's, that's kind of what I've been reading some Fate stuff again, because there's some overlap between the game I'm designing and how Fate does things. And, there's that sort of follow the fiction. I think that's also a dungeon world or fiction first. And I think that's like, in this world as we've established, this character is good at this. So unless there's a really good reason to add some random elements, we can just assume that they are good at that. And that includes being charismatic and being in either, persuasive or charming or intimidating. So I think this is totally fine in the established fiction to follow it along until there's a reason not to. And in some cases, that can then be kind of almost the fun part is, you spend an entire session where the charismatic character can just, get by on that. They can convince people to do what they want. They can charm these people. They can lie their way out of this. And then suddenly you're like, nope, now you have to roll for it. That's interesting. It's like if you don't set a baseline, then rolling not that becomes meaningless, but it becomes almost like too meaningful. I'm trying to think of a way to say this, but basically, the fact that now this guard, you're having to roll for it. What does that tell me about the world? Like, what does that tell me as a player and as a character that this guard isn't easily fooled? I think that's an interesting way to tell the story as well. You set up a baseline and then you can mess with it. If you don't establish the baseline first, then it's harder to kind of feel out the world that you're supposed to be inhabiting.
I think you said the key word, interesting. The dice roll should make the story interesting. And in that situation, it would be more interesting to have a random guard that they have to now bluff. Wait, why do I have to bluff this particular guard? Maybe that was just interesting as a GM for you to just have fun and see your player's reaction.
Right.
Or maybe it gave them something to think about.
Because I totally agree. I think that is an element that sometimes gets lost, that sometimes the randomness is the point. And it could be that, maybe you're watching your players and you feel like they're getting bored. Maybe they feel like things are going too easy. Maybe they're looking, it's time to bring dice into the game because it needs to be. I think those are all acceptable reasons for a GM to say, we're going to roll some dice here beyond just the random element of, you're not supposed to be able to just get away with everything. You have a charm score, so let's use it. It's just, maybe sometimes it's fun for characters to roll or players to roll dice, so we're going to do that now. Or maybe just as the GM, I think it'll be funny to make you have a chance of failing here, because I want to see how you respond to failing when you're the character that's supposed to be good at this. I think that's a completely valid reason to bring dice into a game.
I agree. I think I really do fall on the idea of we only roll dice when I think it's going to be interesting. Otherwise, just let the story go. But like you said, you have to read the table. I'm fortunate with players who are happy if they don't have to roll dice. They'll tell me, hey, I got all these cool skills. I haven't used them in a while. Okay, cool. I'll throw something in so they can use them. For example, Michael, who plays Tazi, is a really good pilot in the game. We don't do a ton with piloting. Every now and then I try to make a point to throw things in, and I'll purposely make things like, all right, have 3 setback dice, just because I know he'll giggle and smile at me, go, well, I have skill jockey, so I'm going to get rid of those 3 black dice, just because he spent the points in the skill, and he gets to use it like once every 6 months type thing. So for me, I'm fortunate that that's the type of players I have. And I hope everybody can find players like that. But
and different players might be better for a different table. So you don't necessarily want players just like yours. You just want players that fit your style, just like your players fit your style. Welcome, Foxblade. Happy to have you hanging out with us tonight. So we had a guest, but something happened. They weren't able to show up. So Chris and I are just talking about the recent games we've been running. So there's potential spoilers for Redemption and Shadowspawn, though Chris was very vague. I'm going to dive into some details because I just think what happened last night was really cool and I want to share. So in my game, we're playing 13th Age. And one of the things about 13th Age is you have these 13 icons. These are like the movers and shakers of the world. You have the High Druid, who is like the leader of the Druids. You have the Priestess, who is like the leader of the church. You have the Emperor, who is the leader of the empire that the game is the main set in. You have like the Lich King. You have the Archmage. And you have the Prince of Shadows. There's more of them, but those are the ones that we need to talk about tonight. So the Prince of Shadows is exactly who you would think. They're this sort of in the shadows, dark, mysterious figure that are known to be able to get into places you shouldn't be able to get into. They're able to get out of places they shouldn't be able to get out of. They're always scheming, sort of pitting the other icons against each other. They're sort of mischievous, right? So in the lore of 13th Age, the Dwarven King has, has set a ransom, basically a king's ransom in gold to be paid for the head of the Prince of Shadows. It's never told what the Prince of Shadows did, but clearly the Prince of Shadows pissed off the Dwarven King quite a lot. In the very first session of my game, word spread through this Dwarven mining camp that the Prince of Shadows had been killed by the Dwarven King. So something had happened. The Dwarven King was finally able to get their hands, and literally session 1, Prince of Shadows dead. Now, obviously, there's questions. Is this true? Did they kill the actual Prince of Shadows? As of yet, the true Prince of Shadows has not come forward to say, hey, it wasn't me. So it seems like it might actually have been. There's also a lot of stuff going on with shadows in my game in particular. One of the characters has a sentient shadow that seems to be actively working against their best interest in some cases. So this is now the 6th session. The characters were on their way to Forge, which is the hometown of the dwarves, where the Prince of Shadows' body has been on display. The Dwarven King has been like showing it off to anybody who wants to show up. The characters showed up. They were immediately treated like royal guests, which was actually hilarious because I didn't intend it that way, but they were like treated like these super important people. They were put in these like really lavish estates. They were, it was like 5-star hotels. They immediately became super nervous. They're like, we shouldn't be treated this well. What's wrong? So the fact that I let them just like, have this lavish night in this palatial estates, they're all freaking out. But all it was is just, it was kind of a mistaken identity a little bit. But I just thought it was really funny that me being kind of nice to their characters made them super paranoid. Right. So they finally are able to go in and actually see the body. It's almost like a line at the Disneyland where people go in groups. And they're handed these little torches that cast what's called witch light. Witch light does not cast shadows. So despite what's going on, they're still really worried about any shadows being around the body. So they go in there, they're looking at the body, looks just like a normal dude. Basically, they're encased in this almost like carbonite, clear, transparent aluminum sort of thing. And then the head's like two or 3 inches above the rest of its body, showing where the body has been killed. And then a figure that they have fought previously shows up, just teleports in, this Ettercap with a phase spider companion that teleports it around. And then that character casts a light spell. So now the room is full of shadows, and all the shadows are drawn towards the body, like unnaturally bending and curving towards it. And that's where we ended. So it does seem like there's definitely something with this body in shadows, where it's true the Prince of Shadows, we don't know. But that's where we ended, was them being in this room with this Ettercap, this phase spider, and all of the shadows in the room drawn unnaturally to this body of the supposed Prince of Shadows. Fantastic ending. I could not have planned out the pacing better to end on that exact moment. The players are all freaking out. They don't know what this means. They don't know if it's really the Prince of Shadows. They don't know why their shadows are acting weird. It was a great moment. Super excited about how that game ended, and I'm hoping that more people will show up next time, because we're about to have a big fight. I'll leave it there. Nice. There may be more twists and turns, but there's a big fight coming.
Nice. Well, that sounds fun. I like the twist on what's going on with shadows. When you talked about the shadow kind of messing with him, I thought of Peter Pan.
When he was There's definitely some elements there. So one of the things that character in particular, their memory has been sort of messed with. So like they can't remember a lot of things. They have memories from other people that they can't explain. And in like the 3rd or 4th session, their shadow got killed. So their shadow tried to run away, and the other characters realized what was happening, chased it down and killed their shadow. And since that day, their memory has not been messed with. So they have a perfect recall from that moment till now. So he's starting to realize that at least the ongoing affliction of his memory has something to do with his shadow. So now he's trying to find ways to kill his shadow again, because his shadow is growing back. It's like baby Groot at this point. It's like this little tiny baby shadow. But he's realized, but he doesn't fully understand how it works. But it seems like his shadow is the one that's been messing with his memories, at least currently, but maybe in the past too. He doesn't know yet. So there's a lot of depths and twists and turns. Hopefully it all makes sense. In my head it does. When it's all on the table, people may go, that doesn't make sense. It may seem like a jiu-jitsu movie, it just doesn't quite line up. But right now I'm having a ton of fun with it.
That's good. You should have his shadow hit puberty and his voice start to crack. He gets moody.
You're not my real dad.
Yeah. I'm smarter than you. Leave me alone. I'm going to my room.
I'm probably a few years away from that, but not many. I got a 11-year-old and a 9, soon to be 10-year-old.
Mine's 16, so we went through that. He's a pretty good kid. He's pretty laid back.
Yeah, he comes to a catacon and works the desk like the whole time. I love your kid.
The first time he did it, I go, "What are you doing?" He goes, "It's the first time in my life I've ever gotten to tell adults what to do." I was like, "Cool, if you're having fun, I'll go play games. You work."
Yeah,
it's supposed to be the other way around, but have fun, kid. So he enjoys it. I think he also enjoys being given the responsibility in a way like an adult and not treated like he's just a dumb kid. So that was one of my pet peeves when I was a kid. His parents would just be like, "Oh, you're too young." Well, but I'm not stupid. So, but that's a whole side tangent that we're getting into.
Yeah.
It sounds like you've got a good storyline built and a lot of mystery built. At first, when you described the palace, my brain went Scooby-Doo. I thought you were doing like a Scooby-Doo in 13th Age, which could be fun. But I like the more serious aspect and bringing the shadows in. That's pretty neat.
Well, the serious thing that does sometimes take a sidetrack. We got on this whole tangent about there's like a fantasy Siri or Alexa. So they're in these palaces and there's just sort of an ongoing scrying spell. So you can just be like, "I would like a coffee." And then like a servant will show up with a coffee. And then somebody started talking about like when you show up, they offer you cookies and you have to accept them. And then like the next day, if you mentioned that you were looking for new shoes, that you would like a shoe vendor would just happen to be in front of you. So a whole like Amazon, Alexa, Siri sort of thing. It became a whole thing, which I thought was funny. But so it's not always serious. It just has some serious elements in there.
How many sandwiches did Caleb order?
He got the perfect sandwich. That was one of the things. They got taken to this really lavish dinner where they could order anything they wanted, and the Dwarven King's own chef would prepare it. And so Caleb wrote out his order. He didn't say he wanted a sandwich, but he's like, I want toasted bread with this, like areola sauce or whatever, or aioli, not areola. That's totally different. And like meats and everything. And basically, he wrote down a sandwich recipe, and then he got the food. I was like, "This is the best version you've ever had of this food." And he's like, "You just like we even stopped." He goes, "You just gave me a perfect sandwich in this game." So I think I might have ruined the sandwich for the rest of his life. I don't know.
He'll have to make something else.
Yeah, exactly.
Move on to pie. Move on to pie. Make pies.
Pie. Pie's good. Yeah. But hopefully I haven't ruined it for anyone listening, because it's definitely a ton of fun to play. I don't know if it's fun to watch. Who knows? Maybe it's not. But I'm having a lot of fun running the game, and the players seem to be having a good time. So come back next week and see what happens with the supposed Prince of Shadows body, or not. All right. So we'll move into our second improv game. The reason most people come just to watch us make asses of ourselves. Where have my fingers been? So this is an improv game where Chris and I will prompt one another to create a short scene involving 2, possibly more characters, where we will finger puppet and act out this short scene to your delight and amazement. So Chris, again, you're the guest tonight. So would you like to receive the prompt first or do the game first?
I'll give you a scene first.
All right. So we have to sing the song. Where have my fingers been? I said, where have my fingers been?
Your adventurer stuck in a dungeon where you have learned if you just ask something, it shows up, or ask for something.
Okay. I can't be the only one that have noticed this. What are you talking about? Just like earlier, I was mentioning like, man, it would be great if I had a water skin. And then a water skin just showed up. I'm pretty sure you had that water skin when you came in. I had one, but now I have 2. Look. You probably had 2 and just didn't realize it. No, I'm telling you. Like, okay, watch. I would like a llama. I don't know what llamas sound like, but just insert in llama sound here. Holy shit, dude! And that's where my fingers have been.
Yay!
Yay! All right, Chris.
Okay. I said, where have my fingers been? I said, where have my fingers been?
Your fingers are part of a magical process that has to give people things they ask for when they're trapped in a dungeon.
Interesting. I'm here. What is it that you would like? I would like bigger feet. Here you have mine. Anything else? I would like a magic cape. Well, have mine. I really don't like this job. I do. I would like all the money in the world. Good luck. I'm not rich. I'm an apprentice. And that's where my fingers have been. I could not think of where to go with it.
Go with a llama joke there. All right.
I thought about it, but I couldn't figure out how to pull it in.
No worries. All right, so we're going to move into cryptozoology, and this is a segment where we're going to talk about a monster, usually D&D, but not always. Discuss some ways that maybe we have used this creature in the past, possibly brainstorm some ways we might use it in the future. Again, since we did not have the guest tonight, I decided to talk about the phase spider, because that is a creature that showed up in the game last night of Shadow Spawns, and this creature has shown up in the very first session, and I think maybe the second session. It was like the first fight of Shadow Spawns. And so I'm using the 13th Age version, but we're going to kind of talk a little bit about both. And I also kind of made some changes on my own. So looking at the 5th edition Phase Spider, that is right here. It's on page 334 of the 5e Monster Manual. So the Phase Spider is a large monstrosity. It is a challenge level of 3. Has some special abilities. Ethereal Jaunt. As a bonus action, the spider can magically shift from the material plane to the ethereal plane, or vice versa. Spider Climb. The spider can climb difficult surfaces, including upside down on ceilings. And Web Walker. The spider ignores movement caused by webbing. So basically, the phase spider is sort of like an assassin sort of a creature. It can just sort of appear out of nowhere. You can surprise you, get behind you without you knowing it. It can phase onto a ceiling above you so you don't know it's there. It has a melee bite attack of +4 to hit. It does 7 damage, but it also has a poison saving throw DC 18 or take 4d8 points of damage. So the actual attacks are not that bad, but the poison is quite potent on these creatures.
Yes.
And now I want to talk about the 13th Age version, and then we'll dive a little bit more. Because I think the 13th Age version has some cool little twists, which if you're familiar with 13th Age, this is pretty standard. So in 13th Age, the phase spider is a large 7th level spoiler type of creature. That's sort of like a type of creature that you face in these games. They have like brutes, archers, spoilers, that kind of thing. +11 to hit, does 25 damage. On a natural even hit, the spider can make a rummage and filch attack against the target as a free action. So what this does is the phase spiders are notorious for stealing magic items. So when a phase spider hits you, there's a really good chance that it has just stolen one of your magic items. So it doesn't matter what magic item it is. It could be a ring on your finger, crown on your head, a sword in your hand. It can steal one of your magic items. And it's known to basically do this where it jumps in, attacks you, steals a magic item, disappears back into the ethereal realm. Bye-bye magic items. It also has some phase-in abilities, short teleport, long teleport, phase out, and then teleport away. And it stores these magic items in this pouch. So if you kill a phase spider, you can get maybe your magic items back, but you might also get, all these sort of like random magic items that it may have collected over the years. So it's a way to give sort of like a weird, almost old school Gygaxian loot drop. You kill a phase spider and you get like a suit of armor somehow, which I can just think would be a ton of fun. So the little twist that I made, ettercaps are becoming kind of a big part of my game, and ettercaps are these sort of like humanoid spider creatures. Yep. So in my game, ettercaps use phase spiders like a familiar, and the phase spider can phase them in too. So a phase spider might show up with like an ettercap, or the ettercap can use the phase spider to get around. So it's almost like a drider, but they're not connected necessarily. And that's what happened last night in that game, is a phase spider phased into the room where the characters were with the body and had an ettercap there. So with all that said, I'll turn to you. Have you ever used a phase spider or creatures that act like phase spiders in any of your games?
Not a phase spider. I've just used assassins that can pop in and out and do things. Oh boy, way back in the day, I ran a 3.5 game where we did the epic level book, and they have a character in there or a creature in there that's what they do. They phase in, stab you pretty much. If you roll poorly, they kill you, and then they pop out. So that's the closest I've used. I don't really use spiders much, mostly because they creep me out a little bit. So I don't really like describing an 8-legged hairy thing that can bite you. It just gives me the willies a little bit. So I don't use them a ton. I like the idea that the 13th Age one was stealing your magic items.
Yeah, that's a fun little twist. In the Baldur's Gate game, there's a whole section where you're in this underground cavern, and I think there's like a whole bunch of like salamanders or Yanti maybe, and there's a bunch of spiders, and there's a whole bunch of phase spiders, and they're really deadly because they basically can just jump next to you. Because like one of the things whenever you play video games like that is, you basically get your party lined up. You got all your archers, you got your warriors in the front, you got your mazes in your back, and then you send your rogue out in sneak mode. You see if there's a creature, you have to sneak the rogue, attack it with a ranged weapon. You get sneak attack damage, you do a ton of damage, it then chases your rogue. Your rogue runs back, gets behind the line, and then before the monster gets to your creatures, you've killed it. Or if it gets up there, your melee fighters take it out. Very classic standard tactical version of playing that game. Phase spiders F with this because they can just show up. So whether your rogue is off by itself and it gets surrounded, or it just jumps behind and starts attacking your wizard while they're behind the line, or there's nothing there, and now there's 3 spiders all around you, plus they're really deadly. So yeah, that is one of the most dangerous section of that whole game to me, is those phase spiders. I hate them. I hate playing them in that game. But they're fun to mess with players for that same very reason, is if they're being very tactical and making really good choices, you can invalidate those. And it's not necessarily metagaming where you're like, well, I see what they're doing, I want to mess it up. You just put a phase spider in there, and the phase spider by its nature is like, oh, you've set up this defensive perimeter. How about I attack the wizard from behind? Haha, you're welcome. Oh, and by the way, I've now phased out, and I'm not popping in again later. And they're dying from poison. Make your save and throw. Good luck. Peace out.
It sounds like a great way to ruin a party's well-laid plan. I don't know. I just keep going back to the stealing magic items. My brain's focused on that. Poison, I've always thought in games is it's either way underpowered or way overpowered. I've never found a game that really balances it well. Yeah. It either doesn't do anything and makes you itch, or it pretty much kills you.
I think the phase spider in 5e is actually kind of interesting because its normal attack doesn't do a lot of damage, 7. But the saving throw for the poison is, potentially 64 damage on a failed save throw. So that's that didn't hurt, now I'm dead type of an attack. I mean, 64 damage, make sure I'm doing that right. No, 32 damage. Sorry, they could do 32 damage. Yeah, but that's still significant for 5 or 7 points of damage, and then potentially 32 on top of it. That's max damage, of course. Right. But, it's still the potential for a whole lot. So I do like that, because then you could have that character who's like the dwarf, or maybe they have a really high con, or they have like maybe like a resistance to poison. That can be when that character gets to shine. You're like, hey, dwarf, we're dealing with phase spiders. How about you go in front this time, because you're the one that's going to survive that. So a mechanical choice with taking a character that has a high resistance or a poison resistance, this is a time where it can actually kind of be beneficial.
That could make a cool scene if the party has to escort, a noble who's not very strong, and you run into, it's a phase spider. How are you guys going to protect this noble that with one bite could die? And your whole mission is to keep them alive for whatever reason. Maybe they're the key to saving the kingdom, or they're promised to rule the land, or they're getting married to somebody that's going to unite the land, or whatever hook you want to use.
Right.
that could add a lot of tension and really force the players to really think about, how are we going to protect this person? I mean, do we go back to back with them in the middle and make this weird sort of four-sided sandwich so the phase spider has no way of getting there?
Mm-hmm.
Or do we back them into a corner, or however they want to do it? That could add a lot of good tension to it.
So I'm going to give an idea I came up with, but since you're focused on magic items, try to come up with not a 10 things, but like come up with a couple fun magic items that you could drop on a party from a phase spider. That would be fun. But my idea for a phase spider encounter is like they have to have babies, right? And usually, I don't know how accurate it is, but my knowledge of spiders through fantasy media is that they lay eggs, and usually a lot of them. And so that you could have a whole bunch of baby phase spiders. So you put the characters in a situation they have to go through a place, and there's like a clutch of phase spider eggs, and you attack them as a swarm, because of course they're going to hatch. Have you not seen Mandalorian? But you treat it like a blink spell where all attacks have a 50-50 chance of missing. So like they cast Fireball, doesn't do anything because they're all phased at that moment. So they're just constantly phasing in and out, and they're attacking. And because they're babies, the damage would be like 1 or 2 points of damage. The poison would be like 5. So it still would be deadly because there's so many of them. But I do like the idea of not only do you have that terrifying moment of all these spiders hatching and rushing at you, but then you multiply that by the fact that they're phasing, and they're not just coming at you, they're phasing all around you, and they could just phase on top of you. So you're just like trying to run away, but now they're in front of you. Now they're on you. Maybe they're in you. I don't know. You run your game your way. X-card it out though. But what are a couple of magic items that you think might be cool to drop on a 13th age version of a phase spider?
It's been also played 13th age. I always like the magic items that are actually useful. Simple things. Ring of warmth. Maybe a phase spider is attracted to that because they live in caves that are cold. Maybe they want one. I don't know how intelligent they are, but maybe they're just drawn.
They're animal intelligent in 5e. In 13th age, they don't give them those stats. So it's 6, which is actually, I think, high for an animal. I don't think they have language, but they're definitely smarter than your average bear.
So maybe they're attracted to it because they want to stay warm. Other things that might enhance their phasing, maybe some sort of invisibility. Maybe they swallowed an invisibility cloak. So now you're fighting one that can phase and is invisible. That would definitely add another layer to it. Then, do something silly. You find a 12-foot spear and a 10-foot spider, and they have to figure out how did it fit. Yeah,
like when you kill it, and then it's literally like a video game where it's like, how was there a spear inside the spider? But because it's like a phase thing, maybe it's like a almost like a bag of holding. Like it can hold as much as it wants in there, even though it doesn't make sense. That could be a fun little thing. Like at that point, like phase spiders would be something people actively hunt because you could get these huge rewards. Or maybe you could try to tame a phase spider or set one loose on an enemy because they have a magic item. Like maybe there's a known assassin who has like a ring of invisibility, and it's known that that's their only magic item. So if you send a phase spider after them, there's a good chance they'll take that one item that they have, and now that you can attack the assassin. So you don't really care about the phase spider. You're trying to use them to your advantage in some way. I also like the idea of being kind of funny, but maybe like you get a ring of poison resistance, because like clearly someone who had that went after the phase spiders, but then they stole it, and then they got killed because they no longer had it. So you actually get like spider control, spider climb, poison resistance, phasing, some sort of ability or magic item that gives you ability that would be great against phase spiders. So it's kind of like a meta thing where like, okay, there's going to be more of these. I'm going to make it easier going forward, but this first one's going to be kind of hard, but then a bigger reward that kind of makes sense.
Or something that negates their phasing ability.
Oh yeah, that would be very cool. Yeah, like you have a thing. So you have like that one phase spider that can't phase anymore because it has like a magic item in it that doesn't allow for phase, like an arcane lock. I think there's a spell that does that, like a portal anchor type of thing. And at least in my version in 13th Age, the phase spider can take other people with you. So it's entirely possible that the phase spider could take someone into the ethereal rim and then leave them. Or like a Nightcrawler thing where they teleport you like a mile into the air and then teleport away, and now you're just free falling like an idiot. Good luck with that, asshole.
Could be fun as soon as they open the spider up. You got one of those decanters of endless water that just starts spraying them in the face. You could go complete comedy with it.
Yeah.
Things like, or it's a decantless of endless cotton candy.
Mm.
You get shot of cotton candy.
I would devour that. I would just be like, it'd be like Homer Simpson in the donuts. He'd just be like, cotton candy straight into my mouth forever.
Yeah, I mean, there's a ton of ideas you could do. Just depends upon where you want to go with the story.
Yep. So as always, we'll throw it out to the audience here. We have a few people watching right now, or then in the future, if you have any interesting encounters with a face fighter, either as a player or as the game master, how have you used them? How have you encountered them? If you can think of any new ways that you'd like to share, please, again, throw it in chat now or leave it into the comments of the episode when it goes up on YouTube and then audio only later. But with that, we're going to move into the final segment of the show, which is our audience Q&A. We may not have any questions, but this is the time to ask them. So if you have a question you'd like to ask Chris or I, doesn't have to be gaming related, but that certainly makes sense. Please let us know. There's a little bit of a delay here, so while we're waiting for anyone in chat to catch up, Chris, one more time, where can people find you on the internet? Tell them about your show and your Twitter handles and all that good stuff.
Twitter, Burlew_Chris. That's usually the easiest way to find me on the internet. And then if you want to listen to me, Redemption Podcast, I game master that. We come out every other Monday. We just had our season finale for season 6, 7, one of those seasons.
The longest running Star Wars actual play.
Yes. I think it's season 6 because we're going to pick back up at the end of May with season 7. We're just taking a little break to catch up.
Are you doing anything special for May the 4th? Any like bonus drops or anything?
Maybe. I haven't actually asked. I'll have to look and see what day of the week that is. That might be a Tuesday, so I might be out. Because I've got scouts that night. I am looking for ideas. I used to do these behind the screens between seasons. I used to call it behind the screen because I've interviewed the players, they've interviewed me. I've had other GMs on, and I stopped doing them because I kind of ran out of ideas. So if anybody has a new idea that they would like to throw at us, that would be great. I'm more than willing to do something. The last one I got was somebody said, well, you could talk about editing. I said, well, I don't mean to break this to you, but anybody that's edited will tell you it's not really exciting and nobody wants to hear about it for an hour.
Yeah.
After about 5 minutes, I've told you pretty much everything I know.
You take the parts you don't like away and you take the good parts and try to make them more prominent in some way.
And don't obsess about every time you stutter, because I do that a lot. Just get over it.
So as for myself, again, everything I do can be found at the RPG Academy. Detention is our live talk show. You're watching it right now or listening to it in the future. We do it live every other week on Wednesday, 9 p.m. Eastern Time. Usually there's 3 people. We have a guest that joins us, but it did not happen tonight. Last week we had 5 people on there. It was the first time we've ever done that. The same weeks of Detention on Tuesdays, I do a live show of Shadow Spawns, which is that 13th age we talked about, 13th age game we talked about tonight. And on the opposite Wednesdays, Tom runs a 5e game right now. So it's called RPG Academy Presents. They're currently playing Ghosts of Saltmarsh, but once they complete that campaign, it'll become something different. And then Monday through Friday at 2 o'clock Eastern Time, I'm now running, I'm playing some video games. Right now I'm playing Dragon Warrior 2. I'm kind of close to beating it. Haven't officially decided what my next game is going to be. I might jump into Sega Genesis and start playing Shining Force, which is a favorite of mine. But I'm not 100% sure yet. And then on occasion, I've been doing some mini painting streams. I've only done a couple so far. I'm having a hard time getting those organized and scheduled. I've been painting minis, I just haven't been streaming it. So we do have a question, but from Dirty Habanero, who also mentioned he still listens religiously to Redemption.
Thank you.
So he said, earlier we mentioned getting stuck playing your least favorite game as punishment. What is your least favorite game?
Oof. That's a great question. Because if I don't like it, I don't usually go back and play it.
Yeah, that's me. It's kind of a one and done.
Chess is exciting for the first 10 minutes for me. Then after that, I realize I can't think long term. I've already lost. I'm ready to flip the table. So that might be one that would be close. But if I don't like a game, I don't usually play it again. I'm not one that's glutton for punishment. And my kid's old enough that I don't have to play like Hi-Ho Cheerios anymore and toss Cheerios into buckets or Candyland or Chutes and Ladders, which luckily he was never much into. What's your least favorite game?
Well, if we talk role playing games, which we didn't specifically, I would probably say GURPS. Though that's not really fair because I have not played that game in about 30 years. But I remember hating it. I tried to get my friends to play it, and it was awful. So I played it one time, never played again. And it's sort of the gold standard. People talk about crunchy games, like that's kind of like one of the crunchiest games there is, and that just doesn't suit my play style. Board games, I kind of have a memory. I think it was even at a faculty retreat where we played a game, and I was just like, I'm never playing that again. But I cannot remember what that game was. So I'm going to say Monopoly. I hate Monopoly. My wife and I we almost broke up. Like we were dating at the time, but we almost broke up over a game of Monopoly, which it's bullshit. Okay. She's wrong. She won't say she's wrong, but she's wrong. It was awful. My kids, they got like a junior Monopoly game, which I've actively tried to get them not to play. Like every now and then they want to play it, and I'm like, we could play another game. Daddy has all, like I'm trying to get them to play anything else other than that game. I absolutely hate playing Monopoly.
Yeah, what I hate about Monopoly is it's too much dependent upon the dice and where you land, and I don't have luck with dice, so if we played, you're going to end up with Park Place, Boardwalk, and all the expensive ones, and I end up on the other end.
And it lasts forever. That's the thing, is it becomes unfair immediately, and then it just takes forever. It'd be one thing if you won super easy, and I have read that the game was invented to try to show people how much capitalism sucks. It's like by design, you're supposed to hate that game, but as a kid, I didn't know that. Like we played Risk and Battleship and Clue and Monopoly was just one of the things that you did. But oh my God, I hated that game. So anyway, so Dirty Habanero mentioned something about Star Wars canon. I don't get that reference. My apologies. Do you know what he's talking about? That Star Wars ships are built on his planet?
I don't have the chat open. What's it say?
He says, did you guys see that I am Star Wars canon? All First Order ships are made on my planet. I don't understand. I don't get the reference. I'm so sorry.
It's not jumping in my head right now either. First order ships would they have been built on the hidden planet? Whew, man.
So in the last Star Wars movie, there was like that planet where all the First Order ships.
Yeah, the hidden planet. For the life of me, I can't think of the name of it.
Yeah, I can't think of it either. He also mentions that his friends play some games that he hates every week, so he just avoids that table game. Not fair. If your friends like playing it, good for them. But yeah, don't put yourself through if you don't have to.
Yeah, Warhammer 40K is one that I usually avoid.
So he says First Order ships are all built on Jaemus, Jaemus. So I'm guessing. I know that I didn't know if that was exactly the way he spelled his name, but definitely I think that is probably, I guess, his first name. Well, congratulations, sir, for being Star Wars canon.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I'll admit I'm the guy who loves Star Wars, and ask me Old Republic stuff, I might know a little better, but most of what I know, I just make up.
Well, yeah, I mean, that's what I'll do. Are you interested in the new Bad Batch cartoon animated show that's coming out soon?
Yeah. They did a good little arc with it in Clone Wars, so I'll be curious to see how that turns out.
Yeah, I have no connection to that. I've heard of the Bad Batch, but so I'll probably check it out because I'm that person, but I don't have, like, I'm not like excited for it. I'm excited for Loki. I think that show looks great, which I was excited for WandaVision. I thought it was great. Excited for Falcon and Soldier. Thought it was really good. Excited for Loki. Yep. If it's good at all, I will love it. So I'll be very happy.
Yeah. See, if Disney listens, do a Lord of the Sith and just do like a season about each Sith Lord from the past. I'm in. I think that would be really popular too. But then people would complain, "Oh, you're making them look like the good guys." No. Go dark with it. Make them the bad guys. Like, paint the picture of what a Sith is, because everybody thinks that Darth Vader is the Sith, but he was more the warrior. Palpatine was more the Sith. But another topic for another show. Yeah. I could rant on that for a while.
So he also mentioned that he found out by buying the X-Wing miniatures. I guess that's part of the lore that you get from those. I almost bought the X-Wing miniatures game for a Catacon to have it in the library, and I was kind of interested in playing it after seeing it on tabletop, that Will Wheaton show that was
Yep.
out for a few years. I never end up pulling the trigger because I'm afraid it's one of those where you're going to have to buy so many, it's just going to get too expensive. So I still would like to play it. I just don't think I need to own it.
I've played it. It's one of those games where they do tournaments and stuff like that. It's like, all right, you got to buy the next ship and the bigger ship, and all right, I'm out.
Yeah, I saw at Gen Con they had a game you could sign up for that was like the trench run. Like they had actually built like a trench in 3D terrain, but you played through the rules of like trying to go through and actually beat the Death Star. That sounded really cool, and I would have liked to have played that, but I just didn't fit in my schedule at the time.
Yeah, it'd be fun.
So how's COVID looking up there in Michigan? I hear the numbers are coming back down a little bit.
Michigan's full of a bunch of stubborn people that half the time don't. Oh, half of us are vaccinated. We're good to go. I'm like, no, that's not the way it works. I've been vaccinated. I still wear a mask. I still stay away from people. Until things get better, people use your head.
Because we've talked about maybe having an actual faculty retreat in July in Michigan, and right now we're kind of like waiting to see what the numbers look like. Because right now it would be a no, but if they come back down, then maybe.
The nice thing with doing it here too is we could potentially go outside. We've got a lot of pavilions and stuff where we could have more space and spread out and have more fresh air, so we're not breathing the same air as much.
Yeah.
It's Michigan. Part of it too is the weather got nice, so people want to get out of the house. I mean, we spent 4 months in winter. Now everybody's like, "Yay, it's sunny. Let's go outside and do stuff."
Yeah.
And they just
it's hard to blame people. I mean, I get it. I absolutely understand people's they have cabin fever. This has gone on much longer than any of us expected, and things do seem to be getting better. Like you hear all the time about all these people are getting vaccinated. So it's like when you take medicine, take antibiotics, and you start feeling better. You're like, I don't need to take the rest of these, right? I feel better now. But you need to take all of them, or you can not only get sick, but you can actually get worse. I think that's kind of the mode people are in. They're just over it. And, you also have a portion of the population that just still don't believe it's a thing, which I don't get at all, that just don't want to wear masks, which I don't get at all. And then you have people that are trying to do the right thing, but they're getting lax. Like I said, they're just pushing it a little bit, like, well, I'm outside mostly, or I'm just, I'm vaccinated, that type of thing. So I get it, but I wish it was better because I want to go to Gen Con. I want to have a Catacon this year. I'd like to go to Origins. I don't have a job anymore, Chris. I don't know if you know this, but I'm a stay-at-home dad. And one of the benefits of that is that I can now go to all the conventions that are reasonably close and reasonably priced, and not have to worry about taking time off of work. And I haven't got to go to any of them since I stopped working because COVID sucks.
That's the key. If you get a job, this all ends.
There you go. That's it. I am at fault. I am at fault. Yes.
I think, back to COVID, one thing that would help up here, especially business owners have been so kind of starved for business. Mm-hmm. They don't do what I do. I run an office that does medical supplies. The sign says masks are required. If somebody walks in without a mask on, I'm quick to go, stop. And I will toss them the box of disposable masks we have, put one on, and people go, I'm like, hey, I'm sorry. I deal with people who have illnesses. This is a requirement for my store. If you don't like it, the phone number's on the door. You can call me from the parking lot and I'll bring stuff out to you.
Right.
And I do it in a nice way. I'm not like, screaming at them. I used to do, smiling through my mask and trying to make a lighthearted joke with them. But you can't just let people go because you're nervous about getting business. You've got to take responsibility for what goes on in your store.
Yeah, I'm really glad at this point that I don't work at Target or Home Depot because I was in security. So I would have been the one that you see on those TikTok videos or YouTube where people are like, sorry, sir, you can't come in here. This is my free rights. First, whatever. I would be the one trying to sit there going, sir, that's not how this works. Private property, blah, 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 blah.
I have the perfect response. I can already tell you have to wear shoes and shirt to come in my business, so I can already tell you what attire you have.
Yeah.
It's legally my right to do that.
Unfortunately, the response probably would be for them to take off their shoes and shirt, which is the opposite of what we wanted. Dirty Heberno mentioned that he's a mail carrier, and he got his second shot, so congratulations. I am fully vaccinated as well. Chris is also, I believe.
Mine went on in January.
Okay. You work medical, sort of like a medical field adjacent, so you needed to.
Yeah,
I've been doing door dashing, so I count as a first responder here in Kentucky, which at this point, it wouldn't matter. I think like 2 weeks after I got my first shot, they opened it up to everyone in my age anyway. So I got literally like 2 weeks ahead of where I would have been otherwise. So yeah, I don't know. So yeah, we're still talking about maybe an actual faculty retreat. We're still talking about a possible Acadecon in November. Fingers crossed that we can do it, but somewhere probably July, early August, I'm going to have to make the decision. So hopefully I can make a decision. Because no matter what I decide, I think I'm going to have second guesses and doubts. If I decide not to do it, maybe I should have. I start to have it. Is it going to work out? Are people going to show up? Does anybody get sick? Because I am that person that if someone comes to a Acadecon and gets sick, I'm going to feel responsible. I haven't even looked into the insurance thing yet. Like, can I even get insurance this year? Because normally, I have to for the DCC, they won't let me have it unless I buy a third-party insurance. So I don't even know, like, is it going to cost me 10 times as much? Because if so, then I can't afford it. I need to look into that. I just thought that probably is something I should double check before I make any other decisions. Because if it's going to cost me a lot more for insurance, then that may make the decision not to do it. So before next time, I will have looked into that.
Yeah. Or are they going to force you to say, hey, only people who have vaccine cards can come?
Right.
I'm assuming they're doing that for everybody. Michigan, you get a card that shows when you get your shots.
Yeah, I have a card on mine for the dates because more than likely, I think I got the Pfizer. So they're talking about there'll probably be a 6-month booster shot for that one.
Yep, that's what I got.
So welcome to COVID talk here at the RPG Academy.
Yeah.
But again, it's hard to talk about anything without talking about that because it's just such a big thing right now. But I think we'll end it here. I'm going to let everybody go. Thank you, everybody, for watching. Again, anyone watching in the future or listening, we appreciate you as well. Dirty Habanero, fantastic having you on tonight and actually getting to interact with you a little bit. Hopefully, I'll get to see you maybe in November or at a Gen Con coming soon. If not this year, hopefully next year. But hopefully you'll come back in 2 weeks while we do this again. So thanks, everybody. We'll do the awkward wave out. See you next time. Bye-bye.
Next time. Yay.
Thanks for listening to the RPG Academy podcast. We do this show out of love for the hobby and the desire to be ambassadors, welcoming more people into this community. All of our website content will always be free to use and utilize. But there are expenses related to the show, and if you enjoy what we do here, then please consider supporting us in some way. You can do so as simply as rating or reviewing us on iTunes or your podcatcher of choice. If you're going to purchase anything through Amazon or DriveThruRPG, consider using our affiliate links first, and then we'll get a small percentage sent back to us. You can do a single direct donation through PayPal using the paypal.me/therpgacademy, or consider joining our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/therpgacademy. And for a donation as low as $1 a month, you'll get access to lots of extra goodies, including bonus minisodes, invites to monthly one-shot games, one-sheet adventures, and more. Please consider following us on Twitter and Facebook, or join our Discord, where we like to try to keep the conversation going with our fans as best we can, and are always looking to talk and chat more. Or do none of that. Just continue to listen and enjoy our show, because honestly, that's enough. Thanks, and remember, if you're having fun, you're doing it right. We'll see you next time. The music used for our intro and outro is Fly a Kite by Spectacular Sound Productions, used under the Creative Commons Attribution Share-alike license.